Hello, my name is Selma. I study fashion, but I'm also passionate about films and literature. And this is a love letter to quiet cinema and slow films that don't rely on fast pace. These are films that remind me of the mysteries of life that will never be completely resolved. First one is one of my all-time favorites, Peter Weir's Australian Gothic classic, Picnic at Hanging Rock from 1975.
What we see and what we seem are but a dream within a dream.
On St. Valentine's Day in 1900, a party of schoolgirls set out to picnic at Hanging Rock, somewhere never to return. Miranda attends a girls' boarding school in Australia. One Valentine's Day, the school's typically strict headmistress treats the girls to a picnic field trip to an unusual but scenic volcanic formation called Hanging Rock. Despite rules against it, Miranda and several other girls venture off. And it's not until the end of the day that the faculty realizes the girls and one of the teachers have disappeared mysteriously. This is an adaptation of John Lindsay's novel of the same name. I believe it came out in the 60s. And this is one of my favorite films. When I first saw it a few years ago with my mom, I was so in love with it that I watched it again the next day. It's a perfect example of quiet cinema, a film that does not need to explain itself, but it's perfectly complete with all its mystery. And by the way, it features an amazing soundtrack that I would very much like to have on vinyl. I have a quote by Peter Weir that perfectly describes how the mystery of the film was fully intentional. I did everything in my power to hypnotize the audience away from the possibility of solutions. There are, after all, things within our own minds about which we know far less than about disappearances at Hanging Rock. And it's within a lot of those silences that I tell my side of the story. Next is Richard Linklater's 1995 cult classic, Before Sunrise. Can the greatest romance of your life last only one night? An unexpected meeting on a train leads two travelers to spend an evening wandering through Vienna. As the night unfolds, they share stories and conversations about life and love, exploring new ideas while a quiet intimacy grows between them, knowing it may be their only night together. This film is also one of my all-time favorites, and I think it's the greatest film about love ever made. Although it's a film with essentially no action, just two people and a calm setting, small encounters throughout the film make it seem like it's full of magic. It beautifully explores the theme of love and time and how young love can often be ephemeral but still have a great impact. This film is incredibly intimate and realistic, yet so magical and philosophical and romantic. One of my favorite quotes from the film goes as follows: "I believe if there's any kind of God, it wouldn't be in any of us. Not you or me, but just this little space in between." Next is the surrealist 1985 animated film by Mamoru Oshii, Angel's Egg. Under a sky where clouds make sound as they move. In the ruins of a strange city, a young girl takes care of a large egg she holds carefully in her arms. She bonds with a boy who is searching for a bird he saw in a dream. Despite commercial failure and almost ending the career of director Mamoru Oshii, this film has risen to be a cult favorite, and it has a special place in my heart as one of my favorites. again. It's a gorgeous exploration of faith and loss and hope in a post-apocalyptic world, depicted through a slow-paced, atmospheric plot with not much dialogue. To me, this film stands out with its hidden meanings and layers and intricate attention to detail with the beautiful animation, which was the result of Oshi's passion and collaboration with artist Yoshitaka Amano. Keep precious things inside you, otherwise you'll lose them. The next one is Czech director Jan Svankmayer's feature film debut, Alice, the 1988 surrealist adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, which is a lot darker than the other adaptations by Disney and even Tim Burton. A quiet young English girl named Alice finds herself in an alternate version of her own reality after chasing a white rabbit. She becomes surrounded by living inanimate objects and stuffed dead animals, and must find a way out of this nightmare, no matter how twisted or odd that way must be. This film attempts to capture the dark and at times unsettling undertones of the original story by Lewis Carroll, and I think it succeeds better than any other adaptation. It's a rabbit hole of childhood nightmares and imagination that try to push the viewer out of their comfort zone. Now you will see a film made for children, perhaps. But you must close your eyes, otherwise you won't see anything. Perhaps the most visual and poetic is the 1969 hidden gem, The Color of Pomegranates, directed by Sergei Parajanov. A poetic evocation of the life of Armenian poet Sayat Nova, portraying events in the life of the artist from childhood up to his death. The movie addresses in particular his relationship with women, including his muse. The production tells Sayat Nova's dramatic story by using both his poems and largely still camera work, creating a work hailed as revolutionary by Mikhail Vartanov. This is a film that truly looks more like a living painting than a film. In the golden time of biopics, this film stands out as a forerunner. Although it's non-traditional and experimental, Parajanov take on the biopic stands out as more faithful than many of today's big blockbusters. It focuses on Sayat Nova's life through his art, his poetry. It does not rely on dialogue or action and rather uses direct excerpts of Sayat Nova's poetry and motionless camera work to create an intimate and painting-like atmosphere. The story of this film is quite interesting. So the film is obviously a reflection of Armenian culture and national identity. But upon the film's release in 1969, Armenia was still a part of the Soviet Union, which meant that any idea of Armenian independence was still punishable by death, which led to the film being heavily censored and suppressed by Soviet authorities, and the original name Sayat Nova had to be changed to a more neutral The Color of Pomegranates that we still know the film as today. Next one is Hiroshima Mon Amour, the 1959 French New Wave classic by Alain Resnais that features the tragically beautiful screenplay by Marguerite Duras.
Qui es-tu? Tu me tues, tu me fais du bien. Comment me serais-je douté que cette ville était faite à la taille de l'amour? Comment me serais-je douté que tu étais fait à la taille de mon corps même?
A deep conversation between a Japanese architect and a French actress forms the basis of this film. Set in Hiroshima after the end of World War II, the couple, lovers turned friends, recount over many hours previous romances and life experiences. The two intertwine their stories about the past with pondering the devastation wrought by the atomic bomb dropped on the city. This is a film that completely deconstructs the traditional film structure to depict better the overlying theme of memory and forgetfulness and the coexistence of past and present. First watching this film, I remember feeling hypnotized by Duras' beautiful text. Although it's heartbreaking and intense, the film is also very intimate and romantic. It reminds you of the contradictory of life and death and the horror of forgetting. Some years from now, when I have forgotten you, I will remember you as a symbol of love's forgetfulness. The final film on my list is Panna and Netvor, the 1978 Czech dark fantasy take on the classic tale of Beauty and the Beast, directed by Juras Herz. Julie, the youngest daughter of a bankrupt merchant, sacrifices her life in order to save her father. She goes to an enchanted castle in the woods and meets Netvor. As Netvor begins to fall in love with Julie, he must suppress his beastly urge to kill her. Rather than Belle and the Beast slowly falling for each other and seeing each other immediately in this film, Netvor, the Beast, denies Julie of seeing him, and he only talks to her from shadows. This is a little spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, skip to this part. Rather than the Beast being the traditional lion or bear-like monster, he is this strange, surreal bird man who stares into the camera with only one eye and whispers his urge to kill this poor woman. The film is so incredible and so much more complex than the other adaptations, as much as I do love the Jean Cocteau version of the film as well so much. And this film, if I remember correctly, has amazing soundtrack also. It's like this one very dramatic song that plays continuously over many sequences. These were all my films for now. I have to run because my studies are starting.